Warlock is getting the coolest card of the set, or probably even of the whole year. Also, aggressive Warlock might be back with an aggressive self-damage package. That and all the other cards I will be covering in this video, my final review. Now let's get started with the very first card for Warlock, which is the Entropic Continuity, a 1 mana spell. Give your minions +1/+1, shuffle 2 Shreds of Time into your deck. Now, a Shred of Time is a mechanic we'll see in a few more cards, and that is it's a 0 mana card, cast when drawn. Deal 3 damage to your hero. So yeah, this is a self-damage mechanic, and there's some synergy with it, again, with the other cards. And this card by itself looks kind of good, right? It's a +1/+1 for 1 mana. That's kind of a good card. I've seen that before with Druid, but Druid has better token synergies, I think, and that was a while ago, right? So the buff isn't as good as it was, and yeah, you get those 2 Shreds of Time, and yeah, there's some upside to it, but overall, they're not really an upside though, right? They're deal 3 damage to your hero, so yeah, you can potentially take 6 immediately the next turn, and that is not great. Even though you're playing an aggressive deck, and you might not care as much about your health as in other matchups, you still care about your health, especially against like other aggro matchups. And yeah, if you draw too many of those, right, you'll just die. You're not like running a lot of healing in aggro decks anyway. So yeah, you can take maybe a couple of these, but yeah, not more than that. And well, it most of the time won't happen. It is a downside to shuffle these. Now, the issue with this card I have is that, well, the buff is good. I just don't really know what you'll be playing it in. None of the other cards are really like token cards. There's not a lot of tokens for Warlock, and I just don't really see an aggressive package working that well. So I just don't really see aggro Warlock happening, but if it does, you might just be playing this card, so I'll be giving it 2 stars. Then the second card in this package is the Twilight Time Hopper, a 2 mana 4/4 dragon. Battlecry, shuffle 2 Shreds of Time into your deck. When drawn, deal 3 damage to your hero. Well, we already knew that that is a Shred of Time. That is just a 2 mana 4/4 that maybe has the downside of Shred of Time, but yeah, 2 mana 4/4 isn't even that great. There's just so much rush and removal nowadays that yeah, unless you play it on 2 right, it's probably getting removed pretty quickly, but it should work, again, pretty well in an aggro deck. I just, again, don't really see that happening still, but in aggro deck, yeah, it might just see play, because it is nice stat step early on, right? You might just hit phase once or twice, and that is pretty relevant for an aggro Warlock deck, so I'll also be giving this card 2 stars. And the next card we have is the Tachyon Barrage, a 2 mana spell, deal 6 damage, split among all enemies, and shuffle 2 Shreds of Time into your deck again. So another card in this package, and 6 damage for 2 mana is just a lot of damage. Like the other cards, I have no idea what deck this goes into. Yeah, probably an aggressive deck, but again, is that going to be a thing? I don't think this is going to get played in like a combo deck. Yeah, you can give it plus spell damage, right, and deal 7-8 damage, but that's not really enough. And you need to have more of these cards, and I just don't really see that working. But in an aggressive deck, it is good. Just a lot of damage. Can also control the board earlier if need be. Just solid in that. But still, I'm kind of doubting that the aggressive Warlock deck is gonna be a thing. So I'll give this card 2 stars as well. Then we're getting to sort of the payoff cards for these Shred of Time cards, starting with the Fate Breaker, a 4 mana 4/4 dragon lifesteal. Battlecry, cast a Shred of Time from your deck to gain +3/+3. And I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think you don't get lifesteal on the cast spell because the card is casting the spell and then the spell deals damage, not exactly the card dealing direct damage. So I think that's how it works. But you do get a 4 mana 7/7 lifesteal dragon with it. And just like I've said before with the Deathlite card, yeah, these big minions, they're just not that amazing nowadays. Yeah, this has lifesteal, but it feels like it's so easily getting cleared. And late game, you just might not have time to play this right, because you just die if you play this card, because it doesn't do anything instantly besides probably dealing 3 damage to yourself, and that just isn't great. Yeah, it's a 4 mana 7/7, but they aren't as good as they used to be. And just like those other cards, I'm not really sure if there's going to be a deck for this. And the downside of this, of course, is that you do need a Shred of Time card to make this work. Probably multiple to make it consistent. But then you have to play those other cards, and you have to play it in an aggressive deck. But again, I'm just doubting that aggressive deck being a thing. So I'll give this card 2 stars as well, because maybe next year it can see play. I'm just not really seeing it right now. And then we have the last card in this package. It's the Ruinous Velocidrake, a 5 mana 5/5 dragon with rush. Battlecry, cast a Shard of Time from your deck to summon a copy of this. So this is just, yeah, if you play the Shred of Time deck, it's a 2/5/5s with rush. and that is pretty solid. I mean, we saw a while ago in Uldum with the quest Druid that the 2/5/5 of Rush is pretty strong, though there's been a bit of power creep since then. But yeah, it's again a solid card, but again, you need to play this in like an aggressive deck, and then Rush isn't as good. Though, yeah, these kind of cards, we've seen also the Faceless Corruptor, I think. That was a really strong card, and it needed another minion. So I don't think this card is bad. And then you also, yeah, you need the Shred of Time, so you can't just play it by itself, because that would be maybe a solid card. But right now, I think I'll just give them all to this package. Like, I'm not quite seeing it, but they're not terrible cards, right? Yeah, taking damage. It is not ideal, especially when you take a lot of damage and then you have these cards with Shred of Time you don't want to play, or you don't want to play this card, right? Because you take another 3, you might die. It's a pretty big downside. But again, just 2 stars, I think. Maybe it'll see play. Now, before we get to the next card, a legendary, don't forget to check out my other reviews if you haven't yet. A playlist will be in the description. And make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of my content. Now, let's go to the legendary. The first one, it is Chronogore, a 6 mana, 6/7 dragon, another dragon. Battlecry, you draw your 2 highest cost cards. Your opponent draws your 2 lowest cost cards. So this is kind of made for that package again, the Shred of Time package. And yeah, you just make your opponent basically draw 6 damage. So that can be pretty good in that, and you draw your highest 2 cards, so you don't run out of value. But the downside though, I think how it works with drawing the Shred of Time is that they do draw the Shred of Time, take the damage, but then they do draw 2 of their own cards. After that, I believe, because it's cast when drawn, which just draws you a card after that card is played, basically. And giving your opponent card draw isn't exactly great. I'm also not seeing what else you want to be playing this in. Like, you just don't really want to give your opponent your cards, your cheap cards especially, because they're usually pretty efficient and it might just be useful for your opponent. You don't want to do that, and you do tutor your 2 highest cost cards, which can definitely be nice, but I don't think necessarily Warlock is lacking that much card draw or benefits that much just from drawing the 2 highest cost cards. And there's also a 6 mana card, right? 6 mana, draw 2, and then give your opponent card draw as well isn't necessarily the best. You don't really want to give your opponent draw. That's just really bad. And then for 6 mana, just drawing 2, it's not very, very efficient at all. But again, I think I'll just give this a 2 star as well, just like those other cards. Like maybe in that package, this can see play. Yeah, deal 6 damage to your opponent, you draw 2 cards, and then you also give them draw 2. And then maybe I'm missing some synergy you can do with this, like giving your opponent specific cards. Maybe it's going to be useful somehow, but I'm not sure what it will be right now. And the next card we have is the Bygone Doomspeaker, a 3 mana 3/3 with Rewind. Battlecry, both players discard a random card. So right now in Standard, there isn't really much discard synergy at all in Warlock. And by that, I mean, there's pretty much nothing. There's a few discard cards, that is it. So unlike Wild, where there's a bunch of cards you can discard, in Standard, yeah, there's not like a Soul Barrage or something like that that can really, really help with this kind of card. So right now, it's pretty much just, yeah, you both discard a card, and that is it. A nice thing about this card, though, that's that Rewind. So if you miss a card that you want to discard from your opponent, you can try again. So it's a lot better than the Dirty Red, right? When you only get 1 shot at hitting something. And this can obviously hit anything. So if you want to hit a minion, it's less likely than red. But if you want to hit a spell, maybe a combo spell deck, then this can actually hit it. So I think that is what this card is going to be, just a tech card for matchups where you want to get rid of a specific card, and you'll be playing this in a slower Warlock decks, right? Like, I don't think anything else really wants to play this. And then it's maybe you want to play this because discarding yourself also really is pretty bad, but who knows? Discarding an opponent's card and then with the Rewind, it might just be barely worth it in a certain meta, so that's why I'll be giving this 2 stars. Then we get to Divergence. You might have seen this card already in the review. It is a 5 mana shadow spell. Split a random minion in your hand into 2 halves. So then there's like, if you get these Zera, right, you get 2 2/6 Zeras, one costs 4, one costs 5, and they both have the same text. So something like that can be really useful in combo decks where you want a specific minion. Then you can play this, and then yeah, you get 2 of them. For example, like a Gamagan, right? If you split that in 2, you can play 2 maybe expensive cards at the expense of your opponent's health. And something like that can be quite nice, though at this point, I'm not really sure what you want to be playing this in. The issue is, right, you split a random minion in your hand into 2 halves, which means you kind of only want to run a few minions, so you hit very specific minions, but then either you play barely any minions in your deck, and then you just make your deck worse, and then I'm not even sure what the payoff is with this card. Like, again, doesn't quite win the game, and then you want other minions that are expensive, right, to deal that damage most of the time. And if you do play a lot of minions, then you have to wait for all those minions to be gone, because most minions, you don't really want to spend 5 mana on basically copying it. And then there's nothing even that wins the game with this, even if you do this. And it is 5 mana, do nothing. You need like one very specific minion in your hand, and then that somehow has to win the game if you get 2 of them. I just don't think that is happening right now. I mean, maybe there's going to be very specific cards, right? Like, yeah, you can also ceaseless this, but are you only running ceaseless in a Warlock deck? I don't think so. You're running a lot of different cards, you're running a lot of minions in every Warlock deck, right? There's not like a spell Warlock or something like that, where you can mostly play spells and then 1 minion, so you could always guarantee that ceaseless getting hit. There just isn't. And this is just way too expensive to do that, and I just don't see this card being played, just too slow, so I'll be giving this 1 star. And before we get to that amazing card, we still have to climb the ladder. So first we get the Rafaam ladder. 4 mana spell, draw 3 cards of different cost. So 4 mana, draw 3. We don't have too many of those cards. We've seen in the past for like Volume Up, where you could draw 3 spells with an upside. You have Dubious Purchase right now, which is of course amazing in Rogue, but Rogue has Prep, Scoundrel, and getting to kill a random enemy minion is just really good as a bonus. This one as a bonus compared to those other cards is that you draw 3 cards of different cost, which I guess is kind of a bonus, but I don't think it's too much of an upside. Like, you may be more likely to draw like higher cost cards, because generally decks have a bunch of 1, 2, 3 mana cards in it, right? So if you're looking for a specific high cost cards, that might be more useful. But I think right now, just, yeah, Warlock has enough draw, and if you want to draw in slower decks, which is probably what this goes into, you're definitely not playing this in faster decks. You probably are looking at Ancient of Yore and then Eternal Layover, that kind of combo to draw, because then you get armor and you get more draw, and just yeah, it's a really amazing combo in Warlock. And yeah, this card, 4 mana, draw 3, it's a little bit slow right now. However, maybe next year when like cards like Eat the Imp rotate, right, Eternal Layover, so it's a lot harder to copy the Yore, I think maybe then it can see play. I just don't see it right now, but I think it can definitely see play next year, so I'll be giving this card 2 stars. And then we have arrived at the final big card, and yeah, it's gonna take a while to get through this, because it is Time Thief Rafaam, a 10 mana 10/10 Fabled card. Your deck size is 40, but has 10 Rafaams. Battlecry, if you played the rest, destroy the enemy hero. So yeah, you get 10 Rafaams, and the first Rafaam card is Tiny Rafaam, a 1 mana 1/1 Death Rattle, draw a Rafaam. The next one is Green Rafaam, a 2 mana 2/2 Battlecry, give Rafaams in your hand +2/+2. The third one is Murloc Rafaam, a 3 mana 3/3 Murloc. Battlecry, the next Rafaam you play costs 3 less. The fourth one is Explorer Rafaam, a 4 mana 4/4 Battlecry, discover a Rafaam from your deck. The fifth one is War Chief Rafaam, a 5 mana 5/5 Battlecry, gain 5 armor. If you control another Rafaam, gain 5 more. The sixth one is Calamitous Rafaam, a 6 mana 6/6 demon. Very fitting numbers. Battlecry, deal 6 damage to all minions that aren't Rafaam. Then we have Mind Flayer Rafaam, a 7 mana 7/7 with Taunt. Battlecry, if you're holding another Rafaam, summon a copy of this. Then we have Giant Rafaam, an 8 mana 8/8 with Rush. Cost 1 less for each Rafaam you've played this game. And the last Rafaam we have is Archmage Rafaam, a 9 mana 9/9 with Battlecry. Transform all minions that aren't Rafaam into 1/1 sheep. So that is a whole lot of cards. We've never seen a card like this before. It really is a Fabled Plus card, like that card says, the Time Thief Rafaam. And then, yeah, let's just go first through all the 10 cards and then talk about how well they work together. So the first one, Tiny Rafaam, yeah, drawing a card for 1 mana. That's pretty solid, especially because you're drawing a Rafaam card, which is probably what you want to be doing. Then the Green Rafaam, giving buffs in your hand isn't amazing, I'd say. You might not have that many Rafaams, right? You just want to play them early, and you don't necessarily care too much about how many stats they have. But still, +2/+2 for 2 mana, that's a pretty sizable buff. So not the absolute worst. Murloc Rafaam, I mean, just 0 mana 3/3 basically, with cheating out Rafaam. Especially good if you can cheat out one of the later ones, like the board clear ones. It can be really, really strong to do it early on, so really good Rafaam. Explore Rafaam, yeah, discover a Rafaam from your deck, so can just maybe find a board clear earlier this way. It's a bit like Xavier's, right? But without the Dark Gift. But yeah, you do get a Rafaam. War Chief Rafaam is a 5 mana 5/5 gain 5 armor, which is just Shield Maiden right now, and then maybe 5 more. And Shield Maiden hasn't been amazing, and it's fun getting maybe 10 armor. It can be nice, though. Yeah, you do need another Rafaam, so it takes a little bit of setup. Then the next one is maybe the best one, Calamitous Rafaam. Deals 6 damage to all minions that aren't Rafaam, so this is just a huge board clear for only 6 mana. Priest would have loved this kind of card. It's really missing something like that. This is basically the minion version of the 7 mana Shaman spell we had a while ago. And yeah, this is just really strong, right? 6 mana, 6/6, and then most of the time just clear the whole board with it. That is exactly what a deck like this wants, so a really good card. Then Mind Flayer Rafaam is 2 7/7 if you're holding it, so yeah, I assume most of the time you're probably going to be holding a Rafaam at some point when you want to be playing this card, and 2 7/7s. It's solid. It's not amazing anymore nowadays, but it's still, it's 2 big taunts that is going to slow the opponent down while you play those Rafaams. Then Giant Rafaam, I mean, if you played all the other Rafaams, it's a 0 mana 8/8, but if you missed 1 or 2, right? A 2 mana 8/8 with Rush isn't awful. And the last one, Archmage Rafaam, is just a big board clear for 9 mana, just a mass polymorph. It really depends on the matchup, right? In some matchups, it's completely useless where they don't play a lot of minions, but if you're playing against like a Starship Death Knight deck, this can just deal with all those starships, and that is pretty amazing. So very situational card. And it is 9 mana, which might just make it the most difficult card to play, because all the other cards mostly have impact immediately. Well, yeah, that one doesn't, unless your opponent has that board. And then you play the Time Thief Rafaam if you've managed to play all those 10 cards. That is quite a lot you have to play, but then yeah, if you play that, you win the game. Well, unless I think your opponent played the new Death Knight card, where then they just go back to 20 health. So if that sees play, that kind of hard counters this deck. And yeah, that is a crazy amount of cards we have to review here, and it's hard to say how good this card is gonna be. Like, yeah, your deck is 40 cards, which kind of makes it worse, right? You generally want to have as few cards as possible, because it makes your draw more consistent. And yet, getting 10 extra cards with these isn't always amazing. But some of these are really good, right? Like that Calamitous Rafaam again. The 6 mana card is super strong. And then the rest, most of them are not that bad as a card. A lot of them you might just not want to play if they were a card by themselves or something like it, right? But in this kind of combo, where you're setting up the Time Thief OTK, you're not going to feel too bad about running them. And yeah, how is this going to work out, right? Just 10 Rafaams. It takes so much time, though. Like, it's a lot of mana you have to spend. A ton of mana that really only works in the slowest matchups. Because in other matchups, yeah, against aggro decks, you're not going to care about most of them. So you're really trying to build this in a control deck, right? With a lot of armor game with the Yor. Just survive that way, draw these cards, and then just try and play these. So you'll probably be playing Ysera in this kind of deck, right? To get more mana as quickly as you can. Maybe the ramp card even, the 2 mana sort of Outgrowth. You can maybe play like then the 2 mana Rafaam in the same term as the Time Thief, if that's the last card. Because yeah, it is 10 cards. You need to draw all of them before you win out of your 40. So pretty good chance it's going to be at the bottom of your deck. So it's going to take quite a while, I think, to reach that end. But yeah, once you do there, you do win the game. Unless, again, yeah, you face the Death Knight deck. But how will I rate this card? Yeah, this is one of the most difficult cards ever to rate. I think I'll be rating this 3 stars. I think a lot of it is just a little slow right now. But maybe next year, when a lot of the powerful stuff is rotating, maybe then this can see a lot more play. And I definitely expect this card to be played a lot on ladder, regardless of how good it is. I think this is a card many players, including myself, would like to try out, and I'll definitely be streaming this on day 1 on my Twitch channel. Now that is it for the Warlock review and every review of this set across the Timeways. I hope you enjoyed all my reviews. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and until next time.